It's the story of a black family and a white family trying to understand who they are in the midst of apartheid and how they have to work with that.
Dr. Grace, he's the father of Elizabeth. They employ Salamina. They help her keep her child safe from the police, who would kick it out to go back to the slums to live with its very old grandmother. He's very much, he wants to help, but he only helps what's in front of him. Like, he helps Salamina and he helps some of the other people that work for him, but he's not like marching up the government steps and trying to, you know, change the whole world. He's trying to keep together this crazy kind of mishmash family in a world that's going crazy, so he has to kind of be the rock for them. The most challenging part is definitely, he's a very different kind of character than the one I usually play. So it's a very different feel. I just have to be a lot more in control, subtle.
Eugenie Grace is Elizabeth's mother, and in her own way she tries to stand up against apartheid, but yet is very easily overwhelmed by the sorrow and the grief. As a whole, Eugenie has been very challenging for me, figuring out how just the lives of someone living in South Africa under apartheid, and then the lives of a white woman specifically, has been challenging to figure out how she relates with other characters.
My character is Moliseng Mashlop. I'm the daughter of the maid who lives and works with the white family. I'm born into the house, and I'm basically Elizabeth Grace's best friend, although she's 6 years older than me. She kind of looks over after me, and we just develop this relationship. As I grow older, I become one of the protesters during the riots in South Africa. I enjoy the fact that I have to play a child. So as a 19-year-old who has to play a 3-year-old, it's pretty hard, but I enjoy it because afterwards, you know, when rehearsal's done, I'm still that child mode. It's just, I feel like I have a lot of energy, although I really don't, because I have to go back to so much homework.
I play Grandpa George. I really like the director, Dr. Freeberg. Adds a really reminiscent role in his character. Like, he ends up doing a lot of things that almost makes him like a ghost in some regards, because he's very deliberate about what he does. He's actually a war veteran. He has a lot of medals for courage and bravery. Other than that, though, he's a traditional grandpa, very loving. He's very caring about his granddaughter.
My character is an Afrikaner, which is kind of like Dutch. It sounds a lot like Dutch. They're Dutch immigrants. So my character is a young girl who lives next door to the main character, Elizabeth, and she is brought up in a very, very religious environment. Her father is a minister, and just very conservative, and always holding a Bible, always really into race and how the English shouldn't be there, and it's all about how we're the perfect kind of Afrikaners, or the perfect kind of race in comparison to the rest, and they back it up with yucky, like, religious concepts and ideas, kind of twisted a little bit. So that character is Luska. And my other character, Granny Elizabeth, is the grandma of the main character. The grandma is very nurturing and very loving, and really takes care of and loves the main character, Elizabeth. My character, Luska, from one angle you could say, yeah, she's a horrible person. You know, she's really bullies the main character all the time, and she talks about how, you know, like, we're better than you and all that kind of stuff, but she's just a little girl, you know? She doesn't know that that's wrong. She's brought up in this really conservative, really religious area, and all she sees is that. All she follows is her father, and she thinks those are the correct ways. She doesn't know anything else. She doesn't know any better. So I often feel like my character, when you watch her, you're like, oh man, that's awful. But it's not her, it's the environment that she's around. It's not like each individual, it's not them, it's what's going on, you know. Elizabeth is calling. her brother, and she has found out something that happened that's really devastating, and she's telling him what happened. And it's this moment that she's like completely just breaking down. Throughout the rest of the play, she's just this little girl having fun, like innocently, like noticing things that are weird about, like, okay, Luska, she hates me and I don't know why, but I love her, you know, like she's still like so positive and so uplifting and stuff, even though there's things that are horrible going on.
I play Mrs. Biggs and the matron Lanning. As a matron, they're coming to a hospital and they're not supposed to be there, and so my reaction to them kind of sets that this is not normal for them to be in a hospital in the townships. Mrs. Biggs later on is more of a lighter character, kind of makes the scene a little bit lighter before the really heavy last scene. I really love the scene when Pietros is washing the window and is telling Mrs. Grace to go back to her own country. And there's really just that tension of misunderstanding, because she's white to him, which means she belongs somewhere over the sea, but to her this is her home. And there's just that complete like just tension in the air of they're different and they're not understanding each other at all.
One scene I like quite a bit is after my wife takes Elizabeth into the townships, which is a very dangerous area for white people to go into at this time. And when I find out she do that, I get really angry. And, you know, it's just, for me at least, it's kind of fun to play angry, but it's also very, like, powerful to play such a strong emotional reaction to something.
They're talking about my death, in my character's death, and I'm actually dancing with my wife in the play, Grandma. And we're sort of doing this really strange, slow dance, almost in slow motion.
One of my favorite scenes is when my character, Moliseng, and her friends are protesting against the police and just rioting against them. And, you know, she has a little monologue about who she is and why she's fighting for her country. So it's one of my favorite parts.
I think my favorite part, what struck me most when I read the play for the first time, was when Elizabeth, the white girl, comes home and is reunited with her nanny, and there aren't very many words exchanged, but she just breaks down and weeps. And I think that was really remarkable to me, because there aren't a lot of plays on racism, dealing with racism, where a white person is not only convicted of the evils of an institutional society, but also feels somewhat responsible for it, even though those were never her intentions to participate in that part of society. Like, she realizes by the colors of both of their skins, how much that defined what kinds of positions they had in their life. And I think that's just a really beautiful picture of reconciliation and taking responsibility for the different things that went on.
It's more than about being about racial everything. It's about this one group of people. And, you know, there's the Graces and they're white, and there's Salamina and her child and they're black, but they're really a family together. So, you know, it's like big racial thing on a personal level.